This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. All right, so which Deshaun Watson is going to show up against the Washington Commanders? Because through 4 weeks, I can argue that we've gotten 4 different versions of Deshaun Watson's, all of various levels of play. Week 1 was really bad from Deshaun Watson. Week 2 was pretty good from Deshaun Watson. Week 3 was really, really bad from Deshaun Watson. And week 4 was really, really good from Deshaun Watson. It has been up and down. It's fluctuated greatly. Deshaun Watson's variance in his level of play can be demonstrated by his Pro Football Focus grades and how they have varied in terms of their ranking to other quarterbacks in the weeks that they happen. So Deshaun Watson in week 1, if you compare his performance in week 1 to all other week 1 performances, ranked about 18th when it comes to Pro Football Focus grades. In week 2, he ranked in the top 10 of quarterbacks for overall Pro Football Focus grades that week. Week 3, he ranked 33rd out of 36 eligible quarterbacks to be ranked, which is to say that Deshaun Watson had a awful game according to Pro Football Focus. And the film that I looked at for that game, and have the film breakdown available online here for you to watch, says the same exact thing. Then you get to week 4 versus the Raiders, and according to Pro Football Focus and their overall offensive grade for Deshaun Watson, he was the second best quarterback in week 4 in the NFL, only behind Lamar Jackson. He was in the top 5 in big-time throw percentage and in adjusted completion percentage for this week. Only 3 quarterbacks threw 3 or more big-time throws while also having 0 turnover-worthy plays. Those 3 quarterbacks were Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. He was the second highest graded quarterback in week 4 when blitzed. This, of course, is coming off of a week where he ranked 28th in the NFL when blitz in week 3. And if we look at weeks 1 through 3 for Deshaun Watson, he ranked 29th in the NFL in Pro Football Focus grade when blitzed. When holding the ball for 2.5 seconds or more in week 3, Deshaun Watson ranked 30th of 31 quarterbacks who had 20 or more dropbacks. This resulted in a PFF grade of 26.3 against the New York Giants. If you include weeks 1 through 3, that number jumps up to 44, which is good enough to rank 31st in the NFL of all eligible quarterbacks with more than 20 dropbacks. But if you look at that same exact grade for week 4, Deshaun Watson was the 3rd best in the NFL when holding the ball for 2.5 seconds or more in the week 4 slate of games. Because according to Pro Football Focus, they thought Deshaun Watson played exceptional, not just good or great, exceptional. They gave him an 86 PFF grade for that performance. To put that in context, that is higher than 12 of his 16 starts in 2020. Right, we hold 2020 up as the holy grail of Deshaun Watson and what you could expect for Deshaun Watson. This performance would have been in the top 5 of games for Deshaun Watson in 2020, according to Pro Football Focus grades. I find myself, as this week goes on, having no idea what to do with that information. I have no clue where to be at with Deshaun Watson. He has driven us through the roller coaster in just 4 weeks. He has driven this fan base insane, not just because he's played bad, but also because he's played good in these 4 weeks. It has been one of the most emotionally exhausting 4-week runs for anybody in the NFL, let alone Browns fans, to start the season. Like, if Watson had dropped that game, the game that he had yesterday, well, not yesterday, but Sunday, If he had simply just dropped that game in like 2022, we would have been through the moon if Watson dropped the game like that, where we're like, oh, that's an 86. This is Deshaun Watson. The signs are there. He's going to be back to 2020 form. The problem is that this isn't 2022 that he dropped that game in, right? This isn't his first season back in the NFL that he dropped that game in. He's dropping this game in 2024 after possibly playing one of the worst games in his career, or two of the worst games in his career in the same year. Again, I really don't know what to do with this game. Look, my evaluation of Deshaun Watson this week is not just relying on Pro Football Focus grades. I did a whole film breakdown of this game, and it was really good. It held up really good to me, right? Like I thought it did. And if you want to know why I feel this way about this game, go watch my film breakdown on it. It's 30 minutes long. It's pretty in depth. And talking about Deshaun Watson's tape objectively is an exhausting task. When I point out the truth that Deshaun Watson plays well, people get mad at me. When I point out the truth when Deshaun Watson has played bad, sometimes horrifically, people get mad at me. But the truth is, I'm not partisan on this. You'll find just as many Deshaun Watson sycophants who are furious with me because I said the truth about what he did in week 3, as much as you'll find the most extreme never Deshaun Watson person who's mad at me because I said that the Baltimore game last year was really good and encouraging, and that the 2023 season was pretty encouraging. I've let the tape dictate me when it comes to Deshaun Watson and what I think of him as a football player. I've proven that over the last 3 years. And it's not just me who thinks this tape is not just good, but exceptional. Dan Orlovsky, somebody who's not been an ally of Deshaun Watson, also said that this is the best game that Deshaun Watson dropped in his Cleveland Browns career. Now, if you're a stat sheet watcher and you're not really like focused in or don't know what to look for in a game film to see if a quarterback is playing well or not, then you're not going to be impressed with this game. But for those of us who get into the film, like this was a really impressive, like 2020 caliber level of game from Deshaun Watson. Again, the 86 Pro Football Focus grade comes from somebody looking at the film of this game and grading Deshaun Watson out. And they graded him similar to what the grades that he got in his best games in 2020. That does not mean that Deshaun Watson is back. That means that he had a really good game that the Browns unfortunately wasted. And we have no idea what to do with this as far as projecting him going forward. Everybody who over the last few weeks has pointed out when Watson has played bad, who has also been labeled as a Watson hater by some of Watson's most ardent sycophants, are also saying that this game was really good. It's not because we love Deshaun Watson we're saying this. It's because that's what's objective from looking at the tape. He was really good in this game. The processing was much better from Deshaun Watson. The decision-making was really smart and clean. He was decisive when he ran, when he threw. He was decisive when he wanted to make a decision about if he ran or if he threw. He was getting through all his progressions, taking all the time that was necessary for him. This was an impressive game. Everything that he struggled with in the weeks prior to this game, he did well at, actually excelled. If it weren't for a holding call that called back an 80-yard Amari Cooper touchdown, if it weren't for a blatant Amari Cooper drop that wiped out a 30-yard completion that would have at least set the Browns up in field goal range, potentially to score a touchdown, if it weren't for those faux pas that were not his fault, he would have easily cleared over 200 yards, possibly in the 300-yard territory, possibly in the 3-touchdown territory. That part is obvious when you look at the tape. Deshaun played excellent versus the blitz. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL versus the blitz so far in the NFL season. But in week 4, he had an 87 grade against the blitz. He was excellent versus the blitz. It shows up on the tape. When he gets blitz, he makes quick decisions. He gets the ball out. He negated the blitz. It was so much different than what he did week 3 or week 1 or even week 2. Like, I'll put it like this. I'm not confident that performance was a fluke. Like, there was too much really good structural stuff there from Deshaun Watson that would indicate that this is replicatable from him in that film for me to just write it off as a fluke. So I'm not confident it's a fluke. I'm also not confident that he's going to ever play like this again. I have no idea what to do with that performance. All I can say, it was encouraging. It was more than a step in the right direction. If he plays like this the whole year, if he drops games like that consistently the whole year, that is top-level quarterback play. Jacksonville was a decent game, but it wasn't a great game by any measure. This was actually a great game. Look, the reason people think this game is bad or are willing to interpret this game as bad is simply because Deshaun Watson's the one who played this game. And this game, unfortunately, because of the drop that we had in this game from Amari Cooper, because of the holding call from Nick Harris, it is not statistically undeniable to those who did not care to look into this game further to see the inner workings of it. But anybody who did see the inner workings of it saw what this game was. It was really good. Again, not confident he's going to do that again. Also not confident that this is a fluke. Don't know where to land on it. Truly 50-50. I'm ready for anything this week against Washington. It could be one of the worst games of the season. It could be an amazing game. I wouldn't be surprised if he was so bad in this Washington game for whatever reason that we're talking about potentially benching him again all week. I wouldn't be surprised if he played so well if we start to get a bit excited about how he's playing. It's literally all on the table, and everything he's done this season has been so up and down. You can't trust any direction that you think this might go. You just got to sit here and let it play out. I don't know if Deshaun Watson's just going to be a loot crate box for the rest of the season, like if he's going to be like Karis LeVert and turn into a different quarterback every game, and we just got to deal with whichever one shows up. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I do not know what's about to happen on Sunday. All I can tell you is that the game that he dropped on Sunday was as good as the games that he played in 2020. From a film grade standpoint, that game he had last week was as good or on par with a lot of the games that he had in his 2020 season. The only issue with that is that it's from a film grade standpoint. It's still somewhat hypothetical. If there wasn't a holding call, if Amari Cooper doesn't drop that football, what happened is what is reflected on his stat line, and that is not as favorable to him. And while the eye in the sky does not lie, the all-22 tells the truth. The truth is that most people don't watch film. They don't take the time out to watch film. What they do is read stats. And to anybody who's not going to look at the film, they're not going to look at this game and think that it was anything spectacular. Some of you who have not watched my film breakdown or listened to anybody else's film breakdown of this game might be wondering why I'm making such a big deal out of the way that he performed in this game. Or you might be wondering why Pro Football Focus made such a big deal out of how he performed in this game. But it was significant. Is it ever going to turn from being something that should have been a great game to statistically it's a great game? That's another question we don't know the answer to. Deshaun has not had a single statistically significant game this season, and he hasn't had a statistically significant game since week 4 last season. No, my bad, week 3 last season. I don't blame anybody for being any place with Deshaun Watson. If you want to bench him, I don't blame you. If you want to wait this thing out, I don't blame you. If you think that there's a chance that he could play some really good football down the stretch, I don't blame you. You could be literally anywhere on the spectrum with Deshaun Watson, and you would be justified by what he's done in 2024 for being wherever you are. That's how erratic this sample of games has been for Deshaun Watson. The question is, which one's going to show up this week versus the Commanders? This week is massive for this football team. They need a win. Like, they need a win just as bad as they needed a win going into that San Francisco game. And it doesn't matter how improbable a win feels like right now. They need to win this game. That is the difference between them and the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders could care less if they win or lose this game. The Cleveland Browns need to win this game. They can't afford to lose this game because the difference between 2-3 and 1-4 is massive. And then you play Philadelphia, you start to play your division opponents. You need to get this win. I know a lot of people are already counting the Browns out because the Washington Commanders have been playing good football, but that has to be the difference in this game. One team needs this game and is a veteran team who should know how to win these kind of games. And the other team is a young team, an inexperienced team with a rookie quarterback and a head coach in his first year with that specific team. That's got to be the difference. If the Browns defense does not show up this week versus a Cliff Kingsbury offense that unfortunately does everything that the Browns have struggled to stop. They run the ball, they throw screens, they go left and right, they barely attack vertical. They do all the things that you're not good at defending. They're going to do all of those things. They're going to use their tight ends. They're going to pull their guards. They're going to play heavy smash mouth football and try to go at Zadarius Smith and go at Quentin Jefferson whenever he's on the field. Can you stop it? Can you make the play necessary? See, this Cleveland Browns defense, I believe, has been playing well under their potential. Because you see it whenever a game gets close, right? When the Dallas game showed a little life at the end of it, all of a sudden this Browns defense started acting like it was 2023 again, right? When you saw the fumble return touchdown for the Cleveland Browns in the rest of that game against the Las Vegas Raiders, this Browns defense showed life. Same thing happened against the New York Giants. Same thing happened in the last drive of the game versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. See, they have selectively turned it on in some moments. This week, you have no choice. And maybe you thought against the Raiders, it's just the Raiders. We don't got to turn it on. Maybe you thought versus the Giants, it's just the Giants. We ain't got to turn it on. Well, you got no choice this week. Again, you need to win this game. What defense is going to show up? What Deshaun Watson is going to show up? What Cleveland Browns team is going to show up this week? Are we going to get the team that plays good football that we've seen win 11 games multiple times under Kevin Stefanski with? Are we going to get that version of this team? Or are we going to get this slappy, half-ass effort that we've been getting from this team in the first 4 weeks of the season at different points of different games? I think the Browns can win this game. And the reason I think the Browns can win this game is because they have to win this game. You win this game is going to be a huge, huge thing to help correct course. Nick Chubb's back at practice. David Njoku's return feels like it's on the horizon. Jack and Jed will be back sooner than later. Wyatt Teller will follow that. You're going to get healthy at some point. The question is, are you going to get healthy and have a record that you can still make something happen with later in the year? Or are you going to get healthy, play good football, and be a really scrappy 9-win football team that doesn't make the playoffs? And we tell ourselves all offseason, man, if we just got one more win and made the playoffs, I'm telling you, we could have made a run. Are we going to be that team? I think this week helped decides that. But in order to win this week, we got to get the real Deshaun Watson to show up like he did last week. We got to get the real Browns defense to show up like they did in the second half of this game. The defense and the offense and special teams have all played great at different times, all separate of each other, right? It's like whack-a-mole, right? Offense good, defense bad. Okay, offense and defense good. Okay, special teams going to fuck it all up. Okay, offense and special teams good. Now the defense is just letting it go. We haven't been good at the same time with all three of our units even came close. We haven't even came close to that all season. That's what's going to be a test today. They all need to sync up. They need to play a good game at the same time, and they need to do what they need to do to get out of Washington with the win. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.